afternoon. Just a quick ride out today, unplanned ride, taking advantage of this. Well, I say it's a nice day, it's very windy. It's around 15-16 degrees according to the Garmin, and when the sun's out it feels it too. But I'm not on my road bike today. I'm on the Specialized Turbo Vado SL, and last night I decided to finally swap out the Butyl tubes for the third generation RideNow gravel tubes, because the United Everton game was absolutely boring. So I thought, bring the bike into the living room. I could swap them tubes over while the match is on in the background. But I took the Butyl tubes out, weighed them. 225 grams each. Sorry, 220 grams each. So that is 440 grams for the pair. The RideNow gravel tubes are 45 grams each. So, in that quick 30-minute swap over, or whatever it took, I've saved 350 grams off the weight of this bike. It weighs around 15.9 without the range extender battery, but today I have got the range extender for a very specific reason. I forgot to charge the bike. Managed to top the internal battery up to 70% while I was getting changed. And the external, the range extender had 3 out of 5 bars. So effectively I've set off with 100%. But I'm only going to do about 25-30 miles. So yeah, 350 grams saved off the weight of the bike. I don't know if you can just make out the pink RideNow valve stems there. Valves. I took it for a quick spin up and down the road last night. It's hard to say. You read online about less rolling resistance, blah blah blah. For me, because my last ride was on my new Scott Addict, which absolutely flies along, and this being a hybrid, it's hard to tell. But the one thing I did notice straight away, different sound to the tyres. So the combination of the TPU tubes and the Pathfinder Sport tyres on this bike just resonated slightly different. I could tell there was a difference. Like I said, it's very windy today. I've only used it in eco and I'm averaging 14.5 miles an hour. But oh my god, that feels like the same effort to chug along as it does going 17-18 miles an hour on my road bike. But on a windy day like this, where there might still be some wet patches on the road, this electric hybrid is just perfect. You might as well call it a semi-gravel bike. Did I press this button or what? One of the things that I do plan on doing in the future with this is swapping out the Pathfinder Sport 38C for the Pathfinder Pro 42C. And surprisingly, they're around the same weight. And a quick Google search, apparently, even though the wider tyres than the ones what are on this, they're actually higher quality rubber, and the TPI is twice as much. I think this is like 68 TPI threads per inch, and I think that's like 120 something. So I'd be putting a wider tyre, going from 38C to 42C, but actually not increased any weight on the bike. I think they're actually slightly lighter, but improving comfort, grip, and less rolling resistance. They're about £45 a tyre, so maybe I just wait until these ones are starting to wear down, but looking at them, for the couple of thousand miles that we put on them between me and my son, because he rides this when I'm on my road bike, doesn't seem to be any visual wear on the tyres whatsoever. They must be extremely hard wearing. But we've got a bit of a kick here, so change down a couple of gears because it's a mid-hub drive. I'm just spinning up at 9.5 miles an hour. Feels like absolutely no effort at all. And I still keep dreaming about taking off this 10-speed Dior 1x group set off this bike and putting the 12-speed XT on. The cassette has a wider range. It's 1150 instead of 1142, sorry, 1142. But even though the ratios are wider in terms of highest and lowest gear, a lot of the sprockets in the middle, the jumps are smaller than what they are in this 10-speed cassette, so you get a wider range. But in the middle of the cassette, like the sort of speeds I'm doing now, 15 miles an hour, the jumps are tighter, so it'll give you a slightly more road bike feel in terms of cadence. Like I'm doing 75 now, if I change down the gear, goes up to 86. Each gear change is a massive shift in cadence. It's why sometimes you can change to a lighter or harder gear and instantly change back because you're like, nope. Take an alternative route. I didn't know that halfway down the A555 towards Hazel Grove that the path was closed. Just went to turn right. There's a big metal gate in front of me. So at the moment I'm not even following a route. I did want to go towards Marple, go for a coffee, maybe go to New Mills, then up into Disley and back home again. So at the moment I'm going to have a little think and see where today's ride's going to go. I've decided to take what's effectively maybe a 1.5 mile diversion, so I'm hoping when I get to the bottom of here that I can get back on the A555, A555, zipping along at 16 miles an hour. Still finding it hard to tell if these RideNow TPUs have given me a little bit of extra speed. I don't know. Definitely seem to be going over the imperfections on the road a bit smoother. It's the first thing I noticed, as well as the difference in the audible sound that they're making on the road. Not even sure where I'm going here. I won't go off bumps like that on my road bike. I've got extra lights on the bike. It's built-in steady lights. Don't like what I'm doing here. So I could have gone that way. I probably would still have been waiting at them lights, so. Let me just turn this music off my Samsung buds. So normally I'd be listening to music through these Bleequp Ranger AI glasses. But I had an unfortunate accident yesterday where a cup fell out of top cupboard, landed straight on my phone, my Samsung Galaxy phone that was on charge below. Felt sick as a duck, but it is what it is. These are my spare Bleequp glasses. I say spare, I've never used them before. Can't really discuss on here the reasons why, but I have collaborated with the company, and my original pair apparently were non-retail prototypes, didn't look any different to me. And I got sent these recently because these are apparently the retail ones. Apparently they made some changes to the waterproofing. Well, it makes no difference to me because I don't want to sound like a wuss, but I never go out in the rain unless I have to. Or if you get caught out with an unforecasted shower. But anyway, he sent me out the second pair, never used them, but luckily I downloaded the app on my Samsung Galaxy tablet, and these are paired with my tablet which is at home, so I know I can make recordings today and upload them to the app on my tablet, because obviously I can't use my phone. Absolutely gutted. I've just ordered the same phone again. Only had it a year. Bought it on pay-as-you-go. So yeah, we're back on the A555. I'm not saying the number's separate. It's annoying. A55555. Sounds like a phone number. So yeah, I'm going up this in eco. I'm still doing 16 miles an hour. I mean, it was only 2%. Yous won't be able to pick it up on here, but I recognise it from anywhere. I can see Kinder Downfall just over here. So over this hill, over here, would be the what's known as the cage at Lion Park. And if you've ever been in the cage, you look straight out of one of the windows, you've got an amazing view of what I can see right now in front of me, which is Kinder Scout. All lit up on the horizon. I've turned the assistance off, but probably wasting my time because I'm doing 25 miles an hour straight into a headwind. It's coming from that direction, which lets me know that if I get to Marple, from Marple to New Mills, I'm going to have the wind in my face. But unfortunately for me, that's also why I'm going to have to use Sport and Turbo for the only time today. It looks like I've got 6 bars of the internal, which is anywhere between 50 and 60%, and 3 bars of the range extender. So I'm looking at anywhere between 80 and 90%, the equivalent between the 2 batteries. So once I get to New Mills, you've got a tiny bit of a climb that goes up towards Disley. From Disley Town Centre to High Lane, you've got a bit of a gradual climb, which I'll be leaning on the battery. And as soon as I get to High Lane, I'm thinking about not using this A555, going towards Bramhall and Cheadle, because I know that all the way from Disley, High Lane, Hazel Grove, towards Bramhall Hall and Cheadle, I'll probably have 5 or 6 miles of the wind behind my back and downhill. So I'll be cycling without the assistance. And as long, at that point, I have 1 or 2 bars to stick it in eco, or if I'm really lucky, enough to stick it in sport for the last few miles. That's what I do. It's just gone 2:30. I'm still within the safe range of an afternoon coffee without me sitting up watching Netflix for 3 in the morning. And it was only about 10 minutes ago did I realise I've been that busy today, I've not even eaten. 9.5 miles in, energy levels feel good. I've got a cereal bar and a packet of like cranberries or something like that. Dry cranberries in my bag. So at the end of this, I might get some sugar in my system, which goes against my usual nutrition because I eat low carb, low sugar, very healthy. I'm absolutely whizzing along here. It's about 1%. It said 0 here, but I'm going uphill. What is it, 0.5%? And I'm doing 19.5 miles an hour. Yeah, I think there is a difference with these inner tubes. I mean, even if not just mechanically, which according to Google, because they're on the outside of your wheel, there's less rolling resistance, better inertia. But 350 grams off your wheels is significant. So took this bike down to about 15.5 kilograms from 15.8. With all your little bits and bobs, your Garmin, your lights. I've got the world's lightest bike bottle, the Elite Fly Tex, I think it's called. I bought that from a Scott Addict. I thought I'd put that on today because I've got these lighter inner tubes. I thought I'd have the world's lightest bike bottle too. It's not a bad bike at all, the Turbo Vado. I know they've brought out a new version now, the Vado 2. That has the new 50 Nm motor in. But for reasons unbeknownst to me, they decided to up the battery from 320 watt hours to 550, which has made it a heavier bike than this. Unless you pay like, I mean, we're talking about a hybrid bike here, 7 or 8 grand on the limited edition carbon fibre version, but they actually do a 5 grand carbon version. And the bit I don't understand is it's full carbon, but it's also the equipped model. So you've also got, which just looks ridiculous for me being a road cyclist, it's got a massive rack on the back for your bloody news of the world, and mud guards front and back. And then what did Specialized do? I don't want to call them too much, because I had a good experience with their customer service when this bike needed a new battery. I made the mistake of buying it someone that had owned it for 18 months and only used it 3 times. So you think, great, it's hardly been used. Yeah, for all of the components, motor, tyres, chain, yeah, all them, not good for the battery. Ended up with the battery cell imbalance. To cut a long story short, after talking to Specialized rider team and explaining to them that I post videos on YouTube, they agreed to give me, and I'm the second owner, 50% off. So it's £275 for a new battery with a new 2-year warranty. Not bad. I'd rather it have been no cost. But also I bought the bike for £1,000 and these are £2,500 bikes, so I've not done too bad. It's a bit of a drag, this bit. Especially if you've got a headwind, like I have now. It's coming from there. So when I go to Marple and face towards New Mills, I'm going to be eating a lot of battery. But then when I'm at my furthest point from home, which is New Mills, I've got the absolute easiest route home. So much of it is downhill. Off the top of my head, I think there might be one or two like 50-yard little kickers, and the rest of it's either flat or downhill. My average speed will shoot up. I'm hoping to get home today with an average speed over 15 miles an hour, which for a hybrid bike, which with the range extender, it's over 16.5 kilo. On a windy day, it's not bad going. The A6, about to turn left here, towards Marple. This should be quick. Wish I was on a road bike now, either my Ribble or my Scott Addict. My word, that was a tight squeeze, especially for these wide handlebars. And it just shows that even on the 10-speed Dior, that the hydraulic brakes are superb. I could have brought my Scott Addict out today, but it's windy. I think road bikes are a little bit less fun in the wind. This is a bit sturdier. Your hands are wider, so you've got more stability. So at least how it feels to me. It's got a very spring-like feel to today. 16 degrees. And even when the wind gusts, it's about 12 miles an hour forecasted today with gusts up to 25. But even when the wind blasts at you, you can feel. Must be coming from the south because it's definitely got some warmth to it. I've got 5 bars of the internal, 3 of the external. So if both batteries were full, little kickers or headwinds, I'd have the bike turned up to sport, but the way I've got sport tuned, I've got ease turned right down. I've got the peak power turned up, but I've got the ease turned down, which means it only gives you the peak power that you set at, the more you put the power through the pedals. So I've got it in it now, sport. If I lightly press the pedals, it feels like eco. Exactly the same amount of support. But the second I put a bit of power down, the motor responds by giving me support, extra support. Feels like a semi-automatic mode. You could do the same with turbo if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend it on a bike this heavy. Or you'd be out the saddle, stomping on the pedals. Into the headwind right now. And because my son uses this bike more than me, when he's coming out on Peak District rides or Cheshire rides with his dad, we've actually turned, because this isn't a carbon fibre turbo Creo, this is an aluminium Turbo Vado in size XL as well, because he's 6'3". We turn eco up from 30% or 35 to 45%, just to help him chug along and keep up with me on my bikes. But because he's only 58 kilos, or he was last summer, it's not actually affected the range. Not with the external, with the range extender battery. And last week I was out on the Scott Addict and I had a neoprene cover on the range extender. Well, I actually bought a pack of 2. And the second one is on the Specialized range extender today. That'll keep the mud off. And with it being black neoprene, I'm hoping it's going to catch some of the sun's rays, help keep the range extender's internal battery, the cells, at a temperature that will help me get a little bit more range, even if it's a mile or 2, because 100% you get a lot less miles in the winter on these electric bikes. I'd say up to 20% easy, and most are on range extenders because they're not protected from the elements by your bike's frame. Right, I've had to nip it up to sport, just as we go slightly uphill into a headwind. Hopefully it doesn't eat the battery too much, but like I said, unless I'm hammering the pedals, it doesn't give me 80% that I've put sport at, peak power. Also going into a headwind slightly uphill, you can help the mid-hub motors along by going to an easier gear and keeping your cadence high. Because on a mid-hub motor, your cadence, your RPM, does affect the motor. I notice sometimes that even in turbo, if I put it to a higher gear and my cadence only around 70, you feel like you barely get anything. You knock it up a couple of gears, let your cadence go to around 90, 95, and all of a sudden you feel the bike's in its sweet spot. Right, I'm going to turn this off while I go up this hill. 5% climb now. In middle assist in sport, my cadence is 96, so I'm spinning. I'm doing 12.4 miles an hour up a 5% climb. So my high cadence is not only helping the motor. If I'm helping the motor with a perfect cadence, that also maximises your range of the battery. It's all different with a rear hub motor, like the Marler X35 and the Marler X20. They just spin at the wheel. They just increase, depending on what level, they just increase your speed. They're a performance enhancer. they do not change, really, the amount of effort that you feel at the pedal. You can still smash up a climb at 500-600 watts, 700 watts if you want to. Whereas a bike like this with a mid-hub motor assists your pedalling. All the helps at the cranks. So up a 5% climb, you could put it in turbo if you've got the battery and just spin away, barely engaging your muscles. And I wouldn't say you would fly up, but if you're not a strong rider, it would get you up. I've got the motor off at the moment. I reckon I've got about 40-45% of the internal, and I've still got 3 bars of the range extender. I'm chugging along it, 20 odd miles an hour. It's a nice fast stretch this down into Marple. I'm gonna go get a bite to eat, cappuccino. Then I've got 1 or 2 climbs where I'm really gonna have to dig in. Then I hit a section where if I've got a headwind, I might have to use sport. Whereas on a calm day, I do it all unassisted, an eco. I've still got the motor off, I'm trying to maintain, I'm doing 18. I'm at 17.5, so I wouldn't be using the motor anyway. Yeah, and there's definitely a bit of extra zip in these TPU tubes. I mean, 220 grams each down to 45 grams each. It's got to make some difference. I've got the motor turned off, I'm doing 16.5 mile up at 2%. If I'd remembered to charge the bike, I wouldn't be thinking about range. It's a last minute kind of thing. Just looking at the weather for the week ahead, it looked like today was my only real chance unless I went early in the morning. Look at that muppet. Give way to you, right, eh? Not in his eyes. Right, so I've just put it into eco because I know I'm turning right in a minute. I'm going up to the coffee shop. It's uphill. Just went for a hot drink, decided to have a mocha. I had some flapjack in my bag. I bought myself a fruit pot. Some fast acting sugars. I'm not used to having this little charge on the bike. Going into a headwind now. It's coming from there. I'm in eco, 15 miles an hour, 15.5. I'm definitely going to have to use sport and turbo before I get to New Mills. But after that, I've got an easy, fast journey home. But it's always nice to have some extra power in the tank, because I tell you something, I've rode electric road bikes and if you used to run out of charge on them rear hub motorbikes, I could cycle them 10 miles home with no charge, no problem. But I ran out of charge on this once. And to say it was difficult It's an absolute, I mean, yeah, well, it's a 50-mile ride to Buxton, but I've never struggled so much in my life to haul a bike. Excuse me. So I don't know if that's anything to do with the fact that she's heavy, or if you ride these with no motor switched on, if there's any internal resistance from the gears. I think it could be a bit of both. So I'm in eco still. Not rode this way for a while. Last year at some point. I know there's a bit of a downhill before the climb. It's not the climb I'm worried about. It's not the biggest one. I get it into turbo and smash up it. Where my thoughts are, the 1-2%, maybe it's 1%, couple of mile ride to New Mills once you get to the top of that. If I've got a headwind, can I do it in eco? With blasts up to 25 miles an hour. That's where I might have to up it and use some more assistance than what I would like. I'm probably going to be alright. I reckon I've got about 40% internal, 30 of the range extender. Who lives at number 69? I'd love it if they were swingers. Sorry, bad joke. Oh god. But how cool would it be? The neighbours at number 69, they like to throw the keys into the bucket. Here we go, -4%. On a road bike, I'd be doing another 5 miles an hour. Because I'd be cutting through this headwind and an aero tuck. Whereas today I'm like a big kite. I can feel the wind hitting my chest. Excuse me, sniffle. Is this the big climb? No. It's coming up. So we've got another downhill section until I hit the climb. I've lost another bar. So I know that's just dropped, so I know I've got about 40% internal. Anywhere between 20-30 of the external. So I've got anywhere between 60 and 70 between the two. Let's call it 60%. I've got one big climb. I've got a couple of miles to get into New Mills, very slight uphill into a headwind. And then when I turn around, I've got about, I'm guessing, 12-30 miles home. With the wind behind me and large chunks of the ride downhill. Although I will have traffic at that point, maybe stop start at traffic lights, blah de blah. If it was early in the day, you might be lucky and you might get the whole of the section on the A6 in one go. So on the outskirts of the Peak District, ramp ahead, temporary road surface, caution, raised ironworks. Okay. Oh, this is bumpy. before they relay the road. I think we've got another dip here. There's usually a patch what's always wet. So when you get that runoff of fields, here it is, every single time, unless it's summer. Even if you've had a couple of dry days in a row, I always remember at that section, I'm going to be right, and you remember them all when you're on a road bike. And you want your frame to be perfectly clean. You always remember where there's sections where you got to think, yeah, I'm going to be riding through water in a sec. Just going through the border into Derbyshire, and this is the hill. I'm going to try getting a nice easy gear and see if I can spin up in sport, but I'm into a headwind. If this was summer fitness, I'd stand up and I'd smash this, but that fitness just ain't there. Oh, I'm in eco. What a crux. Well, that gives me a bit more confidence about my fitness. Going up an 8% in eco. I'm putting out 280, 310, 312. Got another gear to go. So instead of going into turbo, I'm going into my easiest gear and I'm going to spin up. It's a bit close. Here we go. Did it. I did it. Well done, me. So windy. It's banging off my chest. I've lost one bar of the range extender, so I've got 4 internal, 2 bars of the range extender. It's the equivalent of between 50 and 60 if you just had a normal internal battery. Wait. Oh, I'll probably be fine. From carrying range extenders, I'm used to not thinking about range. And in the summer, I'd have a better idea of how many miles I could get. But all of them parameters have been flipped. We're saying that it's not actually a winter's day. Let's go back to, it's 14.8 degrees, just under 15 degrees. So, and I've got a cover on the range extender, so I wouldn't say range is at your optimal, like it would be if it was 20 degrees plus, but instead of losing 20% of range, maybe I'd only lose between 5 and 10. But in sport, I'm going into a headwind, up a 1% incline, a long drag, but I'm whizzing along at 15.5 miles an hour in sport. Almost feels like a road bike in sport. although I'd say my Scott Addict would go up this now quicker in eco than what this bike is in sport. That's the difference. This motor in turbo can give a maximum of 240 watts assistance. The Scott Addict is a lightweight carbon bike. Sorry, the Scott Addict E-Ride with the X20 motor. Well, the new miler update has unlocked 275 watts, 65 Newton meter equivalent. So just pulled over at New Mills. I'll show you the Millennium Walkway. Down here. You can't see it. It's a path that goes alongside here. That's the railway line that goes towards Buxton and beyond, Bakewell. Extra light. So that one down there is called the Tors, and it has a weir, electric weir, hydro dam. Lovely place. This is up in New Mills. There's a pub there, the Pride of the Peaks. Bike shop there. Looks like it sells Ridleys. I'm going to round it down. I reckon I've got about 50% battery. I'm probably worrying too much, and I reckon it's more than enough to get me home. And I've got long sections where I'm going to have the wind on my side. Let's go. So we're gonna go past the Swizzles Matlow factory in a sec. We've no longer got any headwinds. Let's put it up to sport. Not used turbo once today. This is a 4% climb. I'm doing 13.5 miles an hour. Very comfortable cadence. So there's the Swizzles factory. Sometimes you can come past and you can taste you can smell and taste the sweets in the air. You get like a sherbety taste in your mouth sometimes. So the start 5% this climb. It's a big factory, isn't it? Bet it's sweet working there. What a bad joke. What a bad joke. I hope the staff room's got big jars of sweets. You'd get sick of them, wouldn't you? But like working at a chippy. So the main reason of me coming out today was to try and ascertain if it was a worthy upgrade to TPU tubes for a big bike like this. And I must say, the difference is noticeable. It's not night and day difference, but if you want a smoother ride, reduce some weight on your bike for 20 odd quid, there's not many upgrades you can make to a bike for only 20 odd quid. That will knock 300 grams off the weight, 350, and make for a comfier ride. I've knocked it down to eco here. I'm at the front of the queue. So I've been at these traffic lights for 5 minutes. I could have made myself a sandwich, sat and had a picnic. Bloody hell, bone shaker. So up to now, they've only let cars come from the Disley end. Now cars are coming from the Whaley Bridge end, so we should be next. But the lights, when they were coming from the Disley side, from the right, the cars were going for about 3-4 minutes. And there's a right big queue of cars behind me. So what I've done is I've put it in sport here, so when the lights finally go on green, I can accelerate away. I don't want to hold anyone up. Come on. So I'm heading towards Lyme Park and then to High Lane and down towards Hazel Grove. Finally, let's go. Come on, let's accelerate. Come on. He wasn't waiting, was he? Effer. So my battery ran out on my video glasses, but luckily I carry a tiny little cable that usually I attach to a little battery pack that sits on top of my cycle helmet. So I just plugged it in and we're back online for now, because I've not charged that either. So from Disley, at the top of High Lane, we just did about 3 miles of 22 miles an hour downhill, no motor being used. I'm not using any motor now because it's 18.5 miles an hour. -1% descent. I'm going downhill. I had no cars behind me, so do you know when you start swerving the bike left and right for a bit of fun? I can definitely notice that the wheels feel lighter, especially on your steering. The front wheel just feels lighter. You can swerve around them potholes and grids. It does feel like a lighter bike now. I'm going to try and get up to 15 miles an hour now. Maybe 60. Turn the motor off. Right, we're up to 16. Right, motor off. 17 miles an hour. We'll just maintain this. -1%. So I should be able to go all the way to Bramwell Hall with no motor. We're a good couple of miles away, so. normally I was on my Scott Addict, now I'll be doing these sort of speeds. Slightly uphill now, +1. But I'm still doing just under 17 miles an hour. It's not bad for a heavy hybrid. Let's flick it up to eco. Just get a tiny bit of assistance. If I had my phone, I could have turned eco down to its original 30% and just rode all the way home in that. I've got no way of adjusting it without a phone. What a lovely day. 4 o'clock and it's still 13.5 degrees. What was that about? He wants me on the cycle path here. Well, I should be on the cycle path, but he's a psychopath, so... The thing is about this cycle path on my left, it goes past so many different driveways, side roads. We're on another long section here where it's downhill. Mixture of a tailwind and a very slight downhill means no motor, just turn it off, cruising along at 17. I mean, in fact, I thought it was a descent, it says it's 0 here. -1. It dips in a sec, but then shoots back up towards Cheadle. The closer I get to home, I think I'll be running on fumes. 19.5 miles an hour, -2%. And it dips down now. If I was on my road bike, I can get up to really fast speeds on this last bit. Someone's turning. I killed my momentum. Can't believe at 4 o'clock it's 14 degrees C. What a lovely, lovely, lovely late afternoon. Barely used any assistance for the last 5 miles. But I will now. I'm going to put it up to sport. Keep my momentum, keep my cadence. .5 miles in. Could well be close to a 30 miler today. An hour and 45 on the bike. The saddle, accelerate. 16 miles an hour, up at 3%. But that's me out of the saddle, probably putting 400-500 watts out. 17 miles. Knock it down to eco. Feels like it's become a game between me and the bike today. Because I set off probably not even 100% between the two batteries. I had roughly about 70% of the internal battery and about 25% the external. My range extender was about 50% charge when I set off. So just to reiterate, the range extender when full gives you an extra 50% because it's 160 watt hours, whereas the bike's internal 320. So I had a 70% full bike and about 50% full range extender. So I'll have to top them both back up today. So around 50% each, 50-60% each. Probably give them about half an hour to get to room temp. It's not cold. 13.8 it's gone down to now. It's not cold whatsoever. It's like people forget how to use a roundabout. Average speed today of 27.5 miles in, 14.9 miles an hour. Up in the hills on my Scott Addict last week, average speed 16 miles an hour. On a much colder day. That's a bike that even with the Ranger extender weighs 12.5 kilos. Just ridiculous. Weighs less than my Ribble Endurance SLE. But with the Ranger extender, I've got over 400 watt hours to play with, which on a bike that only weighs 12.5 with the Ranger extender is just amazing. Yeah, so this bike, if both batteries were fully charged, it's got 320 internal, 160 external, so you're looking at 480 watt hours. My Scott Addict e-ride with range extender, 407 watt hours. So it's less, but it's a 12.5 kilo bike with the external battery compared to 17 kilo with this. But I have another trick up the sleeve. Well, I don't, Marla do, and I've invested in their ecosystem. So I've bought the Marla Energy Hub, which is just a little dock for the range extender battery. So if I'm on a really long ride and I want some extra juice, take the range extender off the bike. There's a little dock it sits in. You can either use a 60 watt or 100 watt phone charger or laptop charger. So I bought the 100 watt charger, and according to Google, did the maths. He said if I stopped at a cafe for 40 minutes, I'd add 70 watt hours back in. So then I've got close to 480 to match the capacity of this bike, but a bike that weighs 5 kilos less. And at 12.5, even with the range extender on flats, I should be doing way above the cut-off speed. I did the wrong gear then. I don't know how I managed that one. I forgot to gear down at the traffic lights. I went to push away, couldn't even read the cranks. So yeah, I would say that even the 407 watt hours alone would get you more range than this bike, just on the fact that it's a more economical motor. A much lighter bike. 5 kilos is a lot. It's also a road bike, so you're in a more aero position too. So to help fund buying the Marler Energy Hub and the Anchor charger, I sold the range extender for my Ribble Endurance SLE, because that bike's going, and I didn't think that selling them as a package would give me the extra £200 that the range extender was worth second hand. So I decided to sell that. Got £200. The Energy Hub was £105 on sale, and the charger was 38 quid. So a bit of pocket change left over. The range extender for the X35 allowed me to get decent range in the Peak District, but it was a strange old system, because all the range extender did was trickle charge your main battery when you were pedalling or you was above the cut-off speed. So if you was to hit a hill, if there is one out there, I'm sure there is, 20-30 miles of constant climbing, technically you could run out of battery, because the range extender's not had any opportunity to charge the main battery. Such a strange setup. The range extender weighed 1.7 kilos, it was just a brick. Even the bottle cage was over-engineered and was super heavy. So my Ribble was just under 13 kilos, 12.8. You put the range extender on, you went to a 14.5 kilo road bike. And it took all of the fun out of the bike. It was great going uphill. Because every time I used the range extender, I went into the app and I added a bit more boost back to Eco and Sport, because normally without, at 12.8, and took both of them down to around 70%. So I added 15% back. So Sport, going up something like Long Hill from Whaley Bridge to Buxton, yeah, I could get up fine. What I didn't enjoy is getting off the hills and hitting flats. Flats where, without the range extender, I could ride at 17 miles an hour. No problem. I could get the bike up to 17 miles an hour, but it felt like I was riding this. Constant force and pressure to keep your momentum, to keep your speed, instead of gliding along. Well, last week was the very first time I used the Scott Addict E-Ride with the range extender. Didn't even feel like I was carrying one, because even with the range extender, it's 300 grams less than my Ribble, the bike I've been riding for 3 years. Effectively, I've got a long distance e-bike with a range extender that weighs less than my original electric road bike that was already lightweight. That's why I was able to get home with an average speed of 16 miles an hour. Because on the flats I was doing 20 miles an hour. It's also a faster bike anyway. Even if I was to add stuff to the bike to make it weigh the same as the Ribble, I think the frame is stiffer. It just seems to generate more of your power goes into forward momentum. And it's definitely got faster tyres. Anyway, I'm about 5 miles from home. I reckon now I could put it in sport all the way home, and that's what I'm going to do. So this is great. This is what I wanted. I've on my last, just under 30 miles in. I've got about 3.5 miles to go home. I've got anywhere between 20 and 30% of the internal battery and 2 bars of the range extender. So I'm going to leave it now in the middle level of assist all the way. No sport, no eco, just keep it in this one level. I think it's the first time I've ever took this bike out and not used turbo once. If I did anything 15% plus, then obviously I would have to have used it. This is heel green, no man straight up. I'm starting to get a little bit of sore palms in my hands from leaning on these underbars. Much prefer road bike cars with all your different places you can place your hands. Just coming up to Withenshaw Civic Centre, going alongside the tram lines. This is whizzing along, just under 18 miles an hour. But trust me, speed on this bike doesn't come for free. It's way more effort I'm putting through these pedals than what I would do if I wanted 22 miles an hour out of my Ribble or my Scott. Way more. 18 miles an hour on this is a workout. I can literally feel every pedal stroke is a burn in my thighs. That's how you build your fitness up. Another thing I've noticed about this bike with TPU tubes, if I stop pedaling it seems to keep its speed that tad longer. The amount of people that turn left when you're behind them on the bike, it literally takes, and you have to do it in your driving test, it literally takes a split second glance to your left. It's called your wind mirror, guys. Before you turn left, check your wind mirror. I changed down way too many gears then. Cycle on these paths, it's normally absolutely full of glass. Could do with being back on the main road. I'm still doing 17 miles an hour on this and it's bumpy as anything. It's probably been laid down but it's one of them paths where all of the tree roots means it's a bone shaker. I might just stay on this now. Took the cleanest route through that muddy patch. I know I'm going to have to wipe the bike down. All my bikes are ceramic coated. I've got an old tea towel that I'll wipe them all down with, followed by degreasing garage wipes. They're quite mild, but they're amazing. And they're that big, I only use half a wipe per bike. So I can see I've got 2 bars and it's showing the range extender colour, but I know that will be overlaid on top of probably 1 or 2 of the internal battery. So it could be 2 blue, 2 green. Without a range extender you have 10 blue bars. If the range extender is full you get 5 green bars that overlays the first 5. Which effectively gives you 150% range battery, or 480 watt hours, as I said earlier. I don't think I'm going to quite make an average speed of 15. I'm at 14.9. I mean, commute will round that up. Garmin will, and we all know that Strava marks you down. If your power meter says 200 watts, Garmin puts you down at 180. Strava. Just going up to 2 hours 10 minutes. Energy levels feel great. I've not had a meal today, just snacks. Come on. God knows how much power I'm putting out on the wrong page. I gave her a bit of a fright then. Right. Motor's not assisting me because I'm doing 17 and a half, 18, 90 miles an hour. Will my average speed tip to 15? I don't think so. Does it matter? Probably not. I'm still doing 70 miles an hour, but that average speed's not changing. Hey John. No, didn't do it.